So, you may have noticed that I have been away for a little while, and it has not been without good reason. For those that do not know, I spent the first 23 years of my life living with my parents, saving, collecting, scrounging up as much money as humanly possible. At times, it may have been a long 23 years as I got antsy to leave the house and begin my adventure as a true adult and experience all the fun events that occur with being adult, things like mowing lawn, laundry, cooking, cleaning, those types of things. I commuted to college from my hometown and now work in the same town that I went to college in. So I was no stranger to the 35 to 40 minute commute. Actually, I've been doing the 40-minute commute for over 5.5 years, and to be honest, I was getting just a little bit tired of it. Some people may say that commute isn't that bad, and it may not have been the worst, but since I was fortunate enough to financially afford buying a house, I chose to go down this path earlier in 2023. I did have a small adventure living with my girlfriend in a small rental in my hometown for about 3 or so months right after I turned 23, which was great to experience being out on my own, or at least just without my parents for a few months. But living with my parents for 23 years to then finally put money into a rental, which I do not view as a great investment, it was definitely not my favorite thing. Actually, I dreaded paying for rent because it was not satisfying to me personally. Everything up until that point in my life had some meaning behind it or went towards something. Things like investments, food, or clothing. Just about anything was more satisfying to spend money on than rent. So I continued my journey to buy my very first house. And let me say, just in case my parents are watching, I'm not sure if they are, but they might, it would not have been possible to buy a house at 23 years old without their support. I had very supportive parents and I contribute my smart financial decisions to them. They're also very smart with their money on just very average, normal, everyday jobs. And they taught me that it's not how much you make, but rather how you spend it. So this definitely would not have been possible without their support. But because I do financial videos on YouTube, I had to get my real estate license because nobody would have taken me seriously if I didn't have that, right? I mean, kidding, obviously, but as a reminder, I do have my real estate license, which I acquired later into 2022. One of my goals with my real estate license was to buy my own house. I wasn't sure if my first real estate transaction would have been my own house or my own transaction, but it ended up working out that way, and I think it worked out for the better. I mean, what better way to learn about the real estate transaction process than to buy my own house? I was very nervous at times. Obviously, I wanted to ensure that I would not mess anything up, but the people at my real estate broker were very helpful, and I had guided assistance to ensure a very smooth transaction going along in the process. In the end, I am glad it worked out that way because it was a very informative process, and the worst I could possibly do is mess up my own transaction for the biggest purchase of my entire life. Obviously, no big deal, right? What can go wrong? That's not stressful at all. Even for an agent and somebody who speaks as a real estate agent, you don't get much advantage, if any at all, into buying your own house. Honestly, I'm not even sure overall if it helps the agent other than the commission you receive. And the reason I say this is because whenever I put in offers on houses that I was interested in, I always feared that the owners of the houses would think that I just wanted to buy it to turn it into a rental. I'm not exactly sure sure what the sellers are thinking. I mean, there's probably a lot going on in a seller's mind when they're selling the place that they've lived in, but I know if I was selling my own house, I would like to know that the house is going to a responsible individual, somebody who will take care of it and love it the way that they have. Do you have any way of knowing this as a seller? Well, no, but in Wisconsin, you have to disclose that you are an agent while I write my own offers. So every seller knew that I was a licensed real estate agent in the state of Wisconsin. That's the quote word for word on what I had to put into every offer that I wrote. And to be honest, I wasn't sure if I would ever get a house because this was my fourth, yes, not my first, second, third, but my fourth house that I put an offer in on, meaning I've previously had 3 rejected offers, and I didn't just write a casual offer. I went multiple thousands of dollars over asking price because previously I was rejected with going over. I thought I would just offer what they're asking for a change, and it turned out that's the one that was finally accepted. And because this house was at the top of my budget that I set for myself, I was not comfortable going anything over asking. I'm glad it worked out that way, and it ended up working out better because they accepted the offer anyway. So going more over from that point would have kind of just been a waste of money out of my pocket and into the sellers, which is good for them, but not good for me. And I know I can't get greedy, but my offer was accepted. But after it was accepted, I thought that maybe I could have even went a little bit lower because I was the only active offer at the time. But again, that might be a little greedy, and I was excited to finally get a house in the end. It was a very surreal process, but I'm glad everything worked out like how it did. Because I purchased my own house and I acted as my own agent, I also had the advantage of being paid to purchase my own house. If you're not aware of how this works, when you work with a real estate agent as a buyer, generally there are no upfront costs unless the buyer finds a for sale by owner property, which is one of the exceptions. But generally that's how it works. The commission is split between the buyers and the seller side, but since I was acting as my own agent, the commission was deposited directly into my bank account. And the reason that I said paid was because in the end, I mean, it is your own money through the loan going through the bank, but somebody has to get paid, so I'm glad it's me, which I think is pretty neat, right? I mean, I did find a way to profit off of something I was going to do anyway. I first went and showed myself the house on June 27th, 2023. This is just me walking through it alone because I am my own agent, which makes it very easy to go see houses since then I can go see them on my own time, whenever I want. My girlfriend happened to be working that night, so I filmed a video the first time I walked through it, and then I showed it to her to get feedback. This was the first of 3 houses that I saw in the same night, but the first one is the one that stood out in my mind. We both really liked this house. I wrote an offer and submitted it on June 28th of 2023, wasting no time to get my offer in just a day later after I saw the house. At this point, I already messaged the listing agent at the time and was like, hey, just letting you know, I am for sure putting in an offer on your listing. And she was very happy to hear that. After I wrote my offer, they were hosting an open house and received remarks from other agents. So I did have to wait a few days to hear back. This is my least favorite time to wait because I am kind of a very impatient person. Waiting days to hear back about the most important decision of your life and the most expensive decision of your life is pretty stressful to me. Even as an agent, you just don't get used to this waiting period. The sellers accepted my offer on June 28th at 10 p.m. So I had to wait 2 full days to hear back. Again, it doesn't sound long, but I promise this period takes forever and you don't know until you put in an offer on your own house that you really, really want. This period is also not great to get an accepted offer because it did fall on a holiday weekend. If you're from the United States, you know that the 4th of July weekend is a very busy weekend, probably one of the busiest weekends in the entire summer. So the bank didn't get back to me until a few days after I contacted them. After the bank finally opened, then the process began with the loan commitment and the appraisal process. Because as much money as I was able to save living with my parents for 23 years, I could not save the purchase price of my house. I gave the loan and appraisal commitment 25 days from the accepted offer, which would have put the due date at July 24th, 2023. Looking back, it almost seems like I should have given the appraisal just a little bit more time. The appraisal due date was due on July 24th, and the appraisal report got back to the bank on July 21st, which in my opinion is just a little bit too close for comfort because it's only 3 days, and 3 days when you're talking about this massive transaction is not a lot of time. But everything came through successfully, and my closing was on August 4th in 2023. So now I've been in the house for about 2 months, and by the time I finish recording, editing this video, it will probably be over 3 months. In the end, everything was complete on time, but it is a very stressful process of waiting for everything, and I was hoping that everything was going to be completed on time. Every day, this was one of the only things I could think about. And I guess the point of making this video was just to show you can do it. I know I am very grateful to be in this position, to be able to buy my own house at the age of 23. I didn't do a whole lot of research into this statistic, but after a quick Google search, I found that the average age to buy a house in the United States is 33 years old, which is 10 years longer than how long it took me to do. I know it's not always great to compare yourself to the average, but I would like to think that everything is working out for the better, and it's a bit rewarding seeing all the pieces come together in the last few years of my life. A lot has frankly happened in the last few years of my life. I graduated college, I got a very stable job, I met my girlfriend, I moved out of my parents' house for the first time into a rental, I bought a house, and then I moved again. It's definitely been a very eventful past couple of years, to say the least. Is my life perfect? I mean, obviously not. Nothing is perfect. But I think when you take a step back and look at the bigger picture, I feel very confident in myself, and I feel confident in knowing that the person watching this video should know that if I can do it, you can also do it. And if I can do it, what's stopping you from doing it also? That's the question you should be answering. Thanks so much for watching this video. This has been Riley with the Riley Reform channel. Please consider subscribing if you have not done so already, and I hope your day is as pleasant as you are.